In the quiet Swiss village of Sils, a fateful decision was made that would echo through the annals of philosophy for generations to come. The year was 1888, and Friedrich Nietzsche, the brilliant and controversial thinker, stood at a crossroads. As he prepared to leave his mountain retreat, Nietzsche issued a startling command to his landlord: burn his private notes and drafts. The flames that would consume these papers threatened to erase entire lines of Nietzschean thought, forever lost to the world. But why? What drove this enigmatic philosopher to such drastic action? Some, like his sister Elizabeth, would later claim it was a noble attempt to shield his ideas from misinterpretation. Yet, as we delve deeper into this mystery, a more complex and unsettling truth begins to emerge. The notebooks in question were no ordinary scribblings. They contained unpublished reflections on Nietzsche's concept of the will to power and biting critiques of nationalism, ideas that, in the wrong hands, could be twisted into something far more sinister than their creator ever intended. It was as if Nietzsche, peering into the future with his philosopher's eye, sensed the storm clouds gathering on the horizon of history. Elizabeth, ever the devoted sister, intervened. She managed to preserve much of Nietzsche's work, but not all. The question that haunts scholars to this day remains: what truths did Friedrich Nietzsche intend to hide or obliterate from posterity? As we peel back the layers of this historical enigma, we find ourselves face to face with the fragility of intellectual legacy. Nietzsche's fear was not unfounded. He understood, perhaps better than most, the power of ideas and the danger they posed when divorced from their original context. In those lost pages, we might have found the key to unlocking the deepest recesses of Nietzsche's mind, or perhaps a warning, a desperate attempt to prevent the misuse of his philosophy. The story of Nietzsche's burning order is more than just a footnote in the biography of a great thinker. It's a testament to the enduring power of words and the lengths to which one man would go to protect them. As we contemplate this act of intellectual self-immolation, we're left to wonder, what might have been contained in those lost pages? What dark secret did Nietzsche fear so much that he would consign it to the flames? In the years that followed, Elizabeth Nietzsche would compile her brother's remaining notes into the controversial work known as The Will to Power. This posthumous publication would become a lightning rod for debate, with scholars arguing over its authenticity and the extent of Elizabeth's editorial influence. The shadow of those burned notebooks looms large over this text, leaving us to question how much of Nietzsche's true intent survived the flames, and his sister's well-meaning but potentially misguided curation. As we grapple with the implications of Nietzsche's decision, we're forced to confront uncomfortable questions about the nature of ideas and their potential for both illumination and destruction. In an age where information spreads at the speed of light, Nietzsche's act of censorship, self-imposed though it may have been, takes on a new and urgent relevance. The loss of these notebooks represents more than just missing pages in the annals of philosophy. It's a stark reminder of the vulnerability of knowledge and the power of those who control it. In Nietzsche's time, that control came in the form of burning paper. Today, it manifests in the algorithms that shape our digital landscape, the editorial decisions that determine what we read, and the political forces that seek to mold public discourse to their will. As we reflect on Nietzsche's fateful decision, we're left to ponder: if you wrote something you feared could be misused, would you destroy it? It's a question that cuts to the heart of the responsibility that comes with creating and sharing ideas. Nietzsche chose destruction, but in doing so, he may have inadvertently created an even greater mystery, one that continues to captivate and confound us more than a century later. The story of Nietzsche's burned notebooks is a cautionary tale for our times. It reminds us of the power of words to shape worlds and the responsibility that comes with wielding that power. As we navigate an era of information overload and competing narratives, Nietzsche's act of self-censorship serves as a poignant reminder of the weight our ideas carry and the unforeseen consequences they may unleash. In the end, we're left with more questions than answers. What truths did Nietzsche take to his grave? How might our understanding of his philosophy be different if those pages had survived? And perhaps most importantly, what can we learn from this episode about the preservation and protection of intellectual heritage? In our own time, as we close this chapter on Nietzsche's darkest secret, we're reminded that the pursuit of knowledge is never without risk. The philosopher who dared to proclaim the death of God and challenge the very foundations of Western morality found himself, in the end, grappling with the dangerous potential of his own ideas. In those moments before the flames consumed his words, did Nietzsche feel relief or regret? We may never know the full extent of what was lost in that fire at Sils, but the embers of that decision continue to glow, casting long shadows across the landscape of modern thought. They serve as a reminder that even the greatest minds are not immune to doubt, fear, and the weight of their own creations. As we look to the future, we must ask ourselves, how do we balance the free exchange of ideas with the responsibility to prevent their misuse? In an age where information can be both a weapon and a shield, Nietzsche's burning order takes on new significance. It challenges us to consider not just what we create, but how we protect it and from whom. The manuscript they wanted to burn may be lost to history, but its absence speaks volumes. It stands as a testament to the power of ideas, the complexity of legacy, and the eternal struggle between creation and destruction that lies at the heart of human knowledge. As we continue to grapple with these questions in our own time, we would do well to remember the philosopher who, faced with the awesome potential of his own thoughts, chose silence over the risk of misunderstanding. In the end, Nietzsche's darkest secret may not be what was written on those lost pages, but the very act of their destruction. It's a reminder that sometimes the most profound statements are made not through words, but through their absence. As we close this exploration of Nietzsche's fateful decision, we're left to ponder our own relationship with the ideas we hold dear, and the lengths to which we would go to protect them. The flames that consumed Nietzsche's notebooks have long since died out, but the questions they ignited continue to burn bright. In the silence left behind, we find not just the echoes of a philosopher's doubt, but a challenge to each of us. What truths do we hold so dear that we would consign them to oblivion rather than risk their corruption? And in doing so, what greater mysteries might we create for future generations to unravel? In the quiet Swiss village of Sils Maria, a fateful decision was made that would echo through the annals of philosophy for generations to come. The year was 1888, and Friedrich Nietzsche, the brilliant and controversial German philosopher, was preparing to leave his mountain retreat. But before he departed, he gave an order that would spark endless debate and speculation. "Burn my private notebooks." As the flames licked at the edges of those precious pages, a mystery was born. What truths did Nietzsche seek to conceal? What dangerous ideas did he fear might fall into the wrong hands? The smoke that rose from those burning papers carried with it the potential for lost wisdom, hidden critiques, and perhaps even Nietzsche's darkest secrets. But not all was lost to the fire. Nietzsche's sister, Elizabeth, intervened. She managed to preserve many of the notebooks, though some vanished forever into the ashes of history. It was from these salvaged fragments that she would later compile the controversial work known as The Will to Power. Yet the question lingers, what exactly did Nietzsche intend to hide from posterity? Some historians believe that entire lines of Nietzschean thought were obliterated in that moment, perhaps unpublished reflections on the concept of the will to power itself, or scathing critiques of nationalism that were too inflammatory for their time. As we delve deeper into this historical enigma, we must consider the fragility of intellectual legacy. Nietzsche, ever aware of the power of ideas, may have sensed a looming threat. Did he foresee the potential for his work to be twisted and misused by future manipulators? Was there an unspoken dark secret, an idea so dangerous that even Nietzsche himself deemed it too volatile to survive? The burning of these notebooks raises profound questions about the nature of truth, the responsibility of thinkers to their ideas, and the control of information. As we unravel this mystery, we're forced to confront our own beliefs about knowledge and its consequences. Imagine standing in Nietzsche's room that day, watching as he gathered his papers, the air thick with tension, the weight of unspoken thoughts hanging heavy. What would you have done in his place? If you had written something you feared could be misused or misinterpreted, would you have the courage to destroy it? As we turn the page to the next chapter of our story, we find ourselves in the midst of a philosophical battleground. The will to power, Nietzsche's most controversial concept, stands at the center of a raging debate. This posthumously published work, compiled by Elizabeth Nietzsche from her brother's remaining notes, has been both revered and reviled. But how much of the will to power truly represents Nietzsche's intentions? Elizabeth's role in shaping her brother's legacy is a subject of intense scrutiny. Did she faithfully preserve his ideas, or did she manipulate them to suit her own agenda? The shadow of those burned notebooks looms large over this question. Scholars have pored over the existing manuscripts, searching for clues. They've analyzed Nietzsche's handwriting, compared different versions of texts, and attempted to reconstruct lost fragments. It's a painstaking process, akin to piecing together a shattered mirror, each shard reflecting a different facet of Nietzsche's complex philosophy. The will to power presents a vision of life as a constant struggle for dominance and self-realization. But without the full context of Nietzsche's private reflections, can we ever be certain of his true meaning? The gaps left by those destroyed papers haunt every interpretation. As we examine the contested legacy of the will to power, we are confronted with the malleability of ideas. How easily can a philosopher's work be shaped and reshaped by those who come after? The power to control information is the power to shape reality itself. This brings us to a crucial point of reflection. In our modern age of information overload, how do we discern truth from manipulation when faced with competing interpretations of a thinker's work? How do we navigate the murky waters of intellectual legacy? The story of Nietzsche's burned notebooks serves as a stark warning about the fragility of ideas and the importance of preserving intellectual integrity. It challenges us to think critically about the sources of our knowledge and the motivations of those who present it to us. As we stand at this philosophical crossroads, we must ask ourselves, how would our understanding of Nietzsche, and perhaps of ourselves, be different if those lost pages had survived? What truths might we have uncovered, and what new questions might have arisen? The implications of Nietzsche's decision reach far beyond the realm of 19th century philosophy. They resonate powerfully in our modern world, where the control and manipulation of information have become central to power structures across the globe. Consider the parallels to our digital age. In an era where data is currency and privacy is increasingly scarce, Nietzsche's act of destroying his private thoughts takes on new significance. It raises urgent questions about intellectual property, the right to be forgotten, and the long-term consequences of our digital footprints. What would Nietzsche make of our world, where every thought can be instantly broadcast and preserved for eternity? Would he view social media as a triumph of the will to power, or as a dangerous tool for manipulation and control? The loss of Nietzsche's notebooks serves as a poignant reminder of the vulnerability of knowledge. In a time when book burnings and censorship still occur, when historical revisionism threatens to distort our understanding of the past, we must remain vigilant. The preservation of diverse voices and ideas is crucial to the advancement of human thought. Yet, we must also grapple with the ethical implications of preserving everything. Is there value in allowing some ideas to be forgotten? Do we have a responsibility to protect future generations from potentially harmful concepts? As we reflect on these questions, we're forced to confront our own relationship with information. In an age of fake news and information warfare, how do we discern truth? How do we ensure that the ideas we pass on to future generations are not distorted by our own biases and agendas? Nietzsche's burning of his notebooks was an act of ultimate control, a philosopher taking charge of his legacy. But in doing so, did he rob us of valuable insights? Or did he protect us from dangerous misinterpretations? The answers to these questions may forever remain as elusive as the contents of those lost pages. But in wrestling with them, we engage in the very process of critical thinking and self-examination that Nietzsche himself championed. As we conclude our exploration of this philosophical mystery, we're left with a profound sense of the power and responsibility that comes with knowledge. Nietzsche's decision to burn his notebooks challenges us to consider our own intellectual legacies. What ideas do we hold dear? What thoughts would we be willing to commit to the flames? In the end, perhaps the greatest lesson we can draw from this enigmatic chapter in philosophical history is the importance of engaging deeply and critically with ideas. We must question, we must debate, and we must always remain open to the possibility that our understanding is incomplete. As the embers of Nietzsche's burned notebooks fade into history, they leave behind a glowing question that continues to illuminate our path forward. In the face of uncertainty and the potential for misuse, how do we balance the preservation of knowledge with the protection of truth? This is the legacy of Nietzsche's darkest secret, not just the content of those lost pages, but the ongoing dialogue they inspire. It's a reminder that true wisdom lies not in having all the answers, but in never ceasing to ask the questions. So, as we close this chapter, I leave you with one final thought to ponder. If you held in your hands a truth that could change the world, but also had the potential to be terribly misused, what would you do? Would you share it, destroy it, or find some middle ground? The choice, like Nietzsche's, could echo through history. In the twilight of 1888, a philosopher's trembling hand scrawled an order that would echo through the ages. Friedrich Nietzsche, his mind already slipping into the abyss of madness, demanded that his private notebooks be consigned to the flames. Some vanished forever, while others survived to be woven into a controversial tapestry by his sister Elizabeth. This is the story of the will to power, a manuscript shrouded in secrecy, manipulation, and the fragility of intellectual legacy. Picture the scene: a dimly lit room in Sils Maria, Switzerland. Nietzsche, his eyes wild with feverish intensity, frantically sorting through stacks of papers. The air is thick, with the scent of burning ink as he feeds page after page to the hungry fire. What truths did he seek to erase? What ideas were too dangerous to survive? As the embers cooled, a battle for Nietzsche's legacy began. Elizabeth Förster Nietzsche, armed with her brother's surviving notes, set about crafting the will to power. But was this truly Nietzsche's magnum opus, or a distorted reflection viewed through the lens of her own ambitions? The fragments that survived paint a complex picture, Nietzsche's raw, unfiltered thoughts, sometimes brilliant, often contradictory, were carefully curated and arranged. Elizabeth's editorial hand shaped the narrative, smoothing rough edges and emphasizing themes that aligned with her own worldview. The result, a work that would influence generations of thinkers, even as scholars debated its authenticity. But why does this century-old literary mystery still matter today? The echoes of Nietzsche's burned manuscripts reverberate through modern philosophy, shaping existentialism, postmodernism, and even political ideologies, sometimes in ways the philosopher himself might have abhorred. Consider the power of a single narrative to define historical truth. Elizabeth's version of the will to power became, for many, the definitive Nietzsche. It took decades of painstaking scholarship to begin unraveling the threads of manipulation, to distinguish the philosopher's voice from his sister's editorial whispers. This struggle for authenticity speaks to a modern dilemma. In an age of information overload, who decides which ideas survive and which are lost to time? Nietzsche's fear of misuse was prophetic. His concepts, divorced from context, have been wielded as weapons by ideologues across the political spectrum. The act of burning or saving texts becomes deeply symbolic. It's a battle for control over the narrative, over the very shape of thought itself. Nietzsche's dark secret isn't a scandal, it's a warning. Philosophical truth is fragile, its survival dependent on careful stewardship and critical engagement. Modern scholars, armed with new translations and meticulous reconstructions, seek to restore Nietzsche's authentic voice. The Colli Montinari critical edition stands as a testament to this ongoing effort. Yet questions linger. Can we ever truly recover lost knowledge? Or are we forever haunted by the specter of what might have been? The uncertainty of Nietzsche's legacy echoes in current debates on information control and censorship. In an era of digital book burnings and algorithmic suppression, we must ask ourselves, whose narrative survives and why? What truths are we losing today, whether through accident or intention? As we grapple with these questions, Nietzsche's burning manuscripts serve as a potent reminder. Ideas, once unleashed, take on a life of their own. They evolve, mutate, and sometimes return in forms their creators might never have imagined. The flames that consumed Nietzsche's notebooks didn't just destroy paper. They ignited a philosophical inferno that still rages today. Every time we encounter a challenging idea, every time we wrestle with the complexities of human thought, we stand at the edge of that fire. Will we fan the flames of intellectual curiosity? Or will we, like Nietzsche in his darkest moment, seek to extinguish the spark? This is more than just a historical curiosity. It's a call to action, a challenge to each of us to become stewards of knowledge. In a world where information can be erased with a keystroke, how do we preserve the integrity of ideas? How do we ensure that future generations have access to the full spectrum of human thought, not just the fragments that survive the crucible of time and ideology? As we close this chapter of Nietzsche's story, we're left with a haunting question. When ideas are lost, who decides what the world should forget or remember? The answer, perhaps, lies not in the ashes of burned manuscripts, but in the living, breathing engagement of minds willing to grapple with the complexities of our intellectual heritage. Nietzsche's secret urges us to look beyond the surface, to question the narratives we're presented with, and to seek out the hidden truths that shape our understanding of the world. It reminds us that every idea we encounter is the result of countless choices: what to preserve, what to emphasize, what to leave behind. In the end, the story of the will to power isn't just about Nietzsche or his sister. It's about us, the readers, the thinkers, the guardians of knowledge. It's a challenge to approach ideas with both passion and skepticism, to recognize the power of words to shape reality, and to take responsibility for the intellectual legacy we leave behind. As the final echoes of Nietzsche's burning order fade into history, we're left with a choice. Will we be passive consumers of curated knowledge, or active participants in the ongoing dialogue of human thought? Will we allow others to decide what truths survive, or will we take up the mantle of intellectual stewardship ourselves? The manuscripts may have burned, but the fire of inquiry they ignited continues to blaze. It's up to us to tend that flame, to ensure that the light of knowledge illuminates not just the ideas we're comfortable with, but the full, complex tapestry of human understanding. So, as we close this exploration of Nietzsche's darkest secret, let's carry forward a spark of that philosophical fire. Let's question, let's debate, let's seek out the hidden corners of thought. For in doing so, we honor not just Nietzsche's legacy, but the enduring power of ideas to shape the world. Remember, every time you engage with a challenging concept, every time you dig deeper into the foundations of knowledge, you're participating in a grand intellectual tradition. You're helping to ensure that the most vital ideas, even the ones that make us uncomfortable, survive to inspire future generations. What will you do with this knowledge? How will you contribute to the ongoing story of human thought? The choice, like the responsibility, is yours. The fire of ideas burns on. Will you fan the flames or watch from a safe distance?